Good Monday evening to you. Welcome to More Sports and Less Levine. I'm filling in for Les Levine. Pleased to be joined by the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff. It's Monday. It's the beginning of a new week, and it is the beginning of what is our favorite time of year now, legal tampering. It's when the Browns and other NFL teams can speak with free agents to be ahead of signing them to official contracts Wednesday starting at 4 o'clock. Plenty of movement and a lot going on. You see the number if you want to get involved, 216-575-0403. We're a couple hours into this, D-Man.
Keeping close eye on Twitter. Players, agents, everybody's on Twitter, on their phones, checking their status. So it's a wild time.
High price, too. You want to get into free agency as a team, you better have the money because a lot of big-time contracts are being agreed to at this point in time. Let's take a look at salary cap space available, the projected amount that is available. And, the number one is the Indianapolis Colts, who haven't done anything yet. The Jets have done a couple of things, but you see the Browns down there. Now, the thing to keep in mind is the Browns know they have a couple of big bills coming due in terms of Myles Garrett coming onto his second contract, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb a couple years beyond that. So you have to have an eye on the future as well as on the present.
Yes, Dave, but I think every team can say the same. That bills are going to have to be paid to certain guys they have on the roster, certain elite players. But it's set up well for the Browns. But here's the one thing I would caution fans. It's certainly in this market. We all want to see, or they want to see their team sign guys. But as you just said, the price tag on some of these players is so exorbitant that it doesn't really make sense to just throw money at certain players. So I kind of like it if I'm a fan of a team whose general manager is not just spending for the sake of spending.
Well, and let's take a look at some of the top free agents that are out there. Le'Veon Bell, he has not agreed to a contract yet. Possibly the Colts, possibly the Jets. 49ers rumored to be interested, Earl Thomas. Now, Trey Flowers, one of those big-time contracts signed. $60+ million goes from the Patriots to the Lions. Nick Foles, $22 million a year and a lot guaranteed up front. Landon Collins signs a big-time contract with the Redskins. Then you get into some of the guys the Browns may be interested in. Anthony Barr, C.J. Mosley, Houston, and you see Sheldon Richardson and Wright. Now, Anthony Barr, 26 years old, 4 Pro Bowls in 5 seasons. The numbers are pretty good, and he's still young.
Yes, he's a guy I would like to see the Browns pursue, as well as C.J. Mosley of the Ravens, but Barr is certainly a candidate. The problem is Quan's contract is so high that guys like Barr and Mosley are just like, all right, come to me because I'm going to have many suitors and you better throw mad money at me.
Here you see Mosley, another one, 26 years old, 5 years in the NFL, 4 Pro Bowls. We've seen what he can do playing for the Ravens against the Browns a couple of times a year as well. Justin Houston, ties to John Dorsey in Kansas City. A little older, 8 seasons, still 4 Pro Bowls. Was released because he had a high price tag. You go into the secondary. Here's a guy that's a little younger in Bradley Roby. The Browns are said to be one of the finalists for him. Texans, Browns, Steelers, 49ers, Raiders, and Broncos, if you believe the reports that are circulating. Again, mid-20s, veteran guy. You put him opposite Denzel Ward, you're in good shape. Wide receivers, we've heard this name going crazy as far as Terrell Williams. They're talking about him potentially getting some major money for a Terrell Williams type of player, though.
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that there isn't money to be had in the NFL. The kids are going to want to play tackle football again because they see all this money. But, yeah, I mean, Dorsey, there are questions about how he handled the cap in Kansas City. That's no secret. So I kind of like the idea that he's being judicious here and that he isn't being linked to everybody. Now, we heard that he was linked to Mosley, as you said, and also to Roby. clearly he's identified defense as where he wants to, where he needs to upgrade, and we know that the Browns defense needs an upgrade. The question is, and this is where if I were a GM, I would be driving myself crazy, because you have the draft, you have trades, and you have free agency. And to try to figure out, now the trades are pretty much, they're not all that important now. But with free agency and the draft, you're trying to figure out, okay, if I throw mad money at this guy, maybe I could have gotten him at 17, in the draft. So you have to weigh one against the other. It's a very difficult job, I would think.
Well, the other thing that came out today is that John Dorsey is planning on renegotiating Olivier Vernon's contract. That was part of the deal when he agreed to be traded. So again, that's pretty sad. That's a pretty savvy move. Yeah,
I was unaware until you just told me that, and good for Vernon and good for Dorsey. But look, the Browns have got, with Vernon, they have the bookends now. They have Garrett and Vernon as their edge rushers. I don't know what's going to happen with Agba. If I'm Agba, I kind of want to see if I can get out of here, maybe. I don't know if I want to be a rotational end, but the Browns don't have to move him. No. So they can keep him for depth and maybe find a home for him in sub-packages. But clearly they've got their bookend defensive ends, or their edges. And what is said of the NFL today? You need the guy who can throw it and the guy who can get to the guy who can throw it. And they have both right now, the Browns.
The one area that the Browns, you would think, really want to upgrade is linebacker. Even under Greg Williams, the defense did a lot of good things, but the inability to stop the run was pretty glaring, and that's usually linebacker or defensive tackle that speaks to. And that's probably why they're looking free agency versus a guy that you're going to draft at 17 or in the second round. You need somebody to come in and make an impact.
Exactly, Dave. When the turnovers dried up for the Cleveland Browns defense, it was exposed. This was not a great defense. It looked wonderful when turnovers were being forced, but when they weren't, you realize, okay, they're giving up yards, they're giving up chunk plays, they're getting beat at the end of halves, they're giving up points. I'm not saying it was a sieve, I'm not saying it was a terrible defense, but it wasn't nearly as good as the turnovers made it look. So you clearly need upgrades, I would think at all three levels, but definitely the defensive line, the interior, now that you've got Vernon and Garrett, and of course the linebackers, especially now that Collins has been jettisoned. I said that the Browns wouldn't miss Collins. I don't think they will, but he was decent against the run. And so for a defense that had trouble stopping the run, to get rid of one of its guys who knew how to play the run, you're gonna have to upgrade there.
And that had to be part of the plan. We're going to go out and get somebody that we can upgrade the run game with. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. When we return, we'll take a look at some of the signings and the dollar figures that have gone on in this first day of negotiations for free agency. Along with D-Man, I'm Dave Bacon. You see the number if you want to get involved. You're watching More Sports and Less Levine here on cleveland.com. Want to remind you that our Facebook page, you see it, facebook.com/More Sports and Less Levine. New content posted every day. Head over there. We also have a Facebook question of the day. We will check that out a little bit later in the show. The D-Man and I are going to take a quick time out. We will be back to talk more of legal tampering in the NFL. It's a banner day here in Cleveland. We'll see you after this timeout.
The heart-pounding, fast-breaking action of college basketball is back when the 2019 Mid-American Conference Basketball Tournament returns to the Q March 13th through the 16th, presented by Visit Myrtle Beach. Pulses will rise and hearts will race as the men and women of the MAC put it all on the line. Tickets for the MAC tournament are on sale now at the Q box office, online at theqarena.com, and at all Northern Ohio discount drug marts. MAC Tournament Basketball. Be there.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine.
It's the best of the best, Cleveland. All-star cars, hot rods, and motorcycles at the 2019 Summit Racing Equipment IX Piston-Powered Autorama. March 15th, 16th, and 17th at the IX Center. If a piston makes it go, it's in this all-star show, featuring motorcycles, antique trucks, insane hot rods in the Asylum, tractors, military vehicles, along with all-star themed car clubs on display. New this year is Fat Man's Invasion with Euro imports, sport compacts, lowriders, and more. PistonPowerShow.com for details. Kids 12 and under are free. Discount tickets on sale now at select Discount Drug Mart locations and Summit Racing Equipment in Talmadge.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine. See the number if you want to get involved, along with the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff.
The tweets.
I'm Dave Bacon. Well, we kind of alluded to it. Free agency off to a big start with lots of money changing places.
Yeah, and the graphics you're going to show is certain guys getting it. I mean, do we have the Foles? There's the Foles, or is Foles up there yet? I don't have my.
Well, but
he's coming.
The one you had alluded to, Quan Alexander, 4 years, $54 million. That's a young linebacker signing with the 49ers.
Yeah, coming off an injury. So if that's setting your bar, then Mosley and Anthony Barr are going to be extremely wealthy young men.
And you look at 4 years, $66 million for Trent Brown, the tackle, as he goes from the Patriots to the Raiders. Raiders are spending some mad money already.
It's amazing to me, Dave, too, that Oakland or the Raiders is always a destination. Like, guys love to want to play for the Raiders, and yet the results haven't been there in recent years.
Here you see 6 years, $84 million for a safety. Not a free safety, an in-the-box safety in Landon Collins. Now the Lions have spent some money. 5-year deal with Trey Flowers. It's worth more than $16 million a year. They also signed Jesse James, tight end from the Steelers. So the Steelers are going to lose Le'Veon Bell, Jesse James, and Antonio Brown. Now the Jets agree to a deal with the slot receiver Jamison Crowder. 3 years, $28.5 million. Frank Gore signs.
Or Frank Gore, $2 million.
There is your Nick Foles deal.
Yeah, and from what I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, $50 million guaranteed for Foles. Now, we know Nick Foles is a Super Bowl MVP from 2 years ago, but I looked it up before the show. Nick Foles has played in 54 regular season games in the NFL.
It's $1 million every game he plays.
He just got $50 million guaranteed.
$1 million every game he's played in.
And I think
it's good work if you can find it.
He's had a couple of really nice deals too, right? The Rams at least were one, and then the Eagles. So good for him. By all accounts, a great guy. But that's just silly. I mean, that's a silly number. $50 million guaranteed for Nick Foles at this stage of his, his age and his lack of experience. Even though, again, Super Bowl MVP, hats off to him. But wow. That's incredible.
Well, and we alluded to what the Steelers lost in Brown, Jesse James, Le'Veon Bell, who they allowed to become a free agent. Now the Ravens have lost C.J. Mosley, although technically they could re-sign him. They didn't franchise him. And Terrell Suggs has informed the team he's leaving and is reportedly going to sign with the Arizona Cardinals. So
don't forget about Eric Weddle, the quarterback of the defense, safety.
So
he's gone.
You lost something at every level for the Ravens that was outstanding as well.
Yeah, it certainly appears that things are falling into place for the Cleveland Browns, even if the Browns were not to do anything in free agency and only were relying on, let's say, the Vernon trade and then the draft and maybe another marginal pickup. They're still gaining on the division because the Ravens are offloading, the Steelers are offloading, even though I still think the Steelers have talent and so do the Ravens. I don't think you just automatically dismiss them. And then the Bengals aren't doing much of anything. I'm reading where Bengals fans are furious with the franchise for re-signing Bobby Hart.
Croft left their tight end Tyler Croft left.
So the door seems to be open for the Browns to not just scratch into the playoffs via the wild card, but potentially win the division. And I know that's, and I want to pump the brakes a little bit because a couple years ago they were 0-16. Last year still sub 500, piled up wins against bad teams. So it's hard to anoint the Browns with anything, but when you see what's happening and you know that the Browns have Mayfield and they have Garrett and they have Vernon and they have Ward and on down the line, all of a sudden you say, well, maybe they can win the division.
Well, and, you know, the other thing about that is Ben Roethlisberger isn't getting any younger.
No.
You take Antonio Brown away from J.J. Smith-Schuster, and all of a sudden defenses are going to be paying a whole lot more attention to him. He's going to find out what it's like to have a defense trying to take him away.
Yes, but I still like Juju a lot.
I do.
I think he's a really good player, and so is Connor. And it's possible that Roethlisberger is revitalized here. Maybe he says, you know what? As much of a headache as I supposedly was to Brown, he was to me. Now he's out of there.
Could be.
Maybe Bell was causing some issues too in that locker room. Maybe now the Steelers galvanize and say, okay, we got, you know, we're on board. We're a collective now again. So I wouldn't count out the Steelers just yet, just as I wouldn't count out the defending AFC North champion Ravens. But still, having said that, it's trending up for the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, look at it this way. How could you possibly lose Jesse James, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, and expect to be a better football team? Those are elite guys. And I get it, they didn't have Le'Veon Bell last year. But again, and your quarterback is a year older. A year older and a year more wear and tear on him.
Right, but he might be motivated and say maybe he changes his, or tries to change his DNA, tries to change his approach of how, why he was so abrasive maybe to an Antonio Brown. But it's possible that Tomlin regains control of that locker room and he says, look, you know, you're either with us or you're against us. And the Steelers come out snorting. Because here's something, I don't want to bring it up to dampen the mood. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but clearly the worst game, in my opinion, that Baker Mayfield had last year was at the Steelers. His first look at the Steelers did not go well. Now, he wasn't the only one that played poorly, but he did not play well. So until I see Mayfield go into Pittsburgh and do damage, maybe I'm not gonna step on the Steelers just yet.
Well, fair enough. But again, it's kind of refreshing to be dealing with dysfunction and questions at other teams in the division where normally those are the questions that the Browns have to answer.
Quite a turnaround, too, Dave, from just a couple of years ago. I mean, think about where the AFC North was. And again, I say a couple years ago, meaning, 18 and 17. You had the Browns 0-16. You had Jackson preparing to jump in a lake. You had toxicity everywhere. This franchise is a joke. The Steelers were strong. The Ravens were strong. The Bengals were strong. And now look, less than 2 years later, and all of a sudden, everybody is in love with the Browns. They seemingly have, well, I'm going to say seemingly, they absolutely have stability in the front office.
Yep.
They have their franchise quarterback finally. They have game-changing pieces around the board, and the other teams are getting old. So if you'd have told me that 2 years ago while the Browns were going 0-16, I would have laughed at you.
If you'd have told me that at the beginning of last year, I might not have believed it. But
because Jackson was back, yes.
And the other thing is you infused talent. You got some guys that are veterans as well that did well, and I'm talking about Randall and Landry. And then John Dorsey hit a home run with the draft. We're going to take a quick timeout. We want to tell you that Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday evenings with 6 p.m. post time. We're open early every day for simulcast action from the top thoroughbred and harness racing tracks around the world. Enjoy free handicapping contests all weekend long including the popular Road to the Derby contest on Saturdays and the weekly Sunday contest featuring Gulfstream Park. Free admission and parking every day at Northfield Park. Live harness racing Monday through Wednesday and Saturday evenings only at Northfield Park. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I will be right back. Dave Bacon filling in for Les Levine on More Sports. And Les Levine, we'll be right back.
Your basement is damp, dirty, and not somewhere you want to spend time. Let Naturestone Flooring transform your basement into a true extension of your home. Naturestone's proprietary hydrostatic ports allow water to simply evaporate, so no mold or mildew. Naturestone is the affordable basement floor solution that beautifies your home.
Get Naturestone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine. I'm Dave Bacon, filling in for Les Levine. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, along. Legal tampering, or the beginning of the free agency period in the NFL. Just some thoughts.
Yeah, well, first of all, fascinating. I'm checking the Twitter to make sure no breaking news, or if breaking news happens, we can tell you right away. But Justin, one of my guys on Twitter, says, so when the Browns have money but are careful about how they spend it, it's smart. When the Indians do that, they're cheap. Gotta love this town. He's right.
Yeah, he's got a point.
The Indians can't catch a break when it comes to keeping money in their pockets. The Browns, when they don't spend, look like they're judicious and everything.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
What areas do you want to see the Browns address in free agency? What areas do you think can wait till the draft?
I'm going to go off what you said earlier about needing NFL resume guys on your defense as soon as possible. I mean, if in fact the Browns are going to strike for an AFC North title, and it's AFC North or bust, you need to get you can't rely on the draft to a draft pick to suddenly plug alongside of, let's say, Ogunjobi. So I'm looking at DT and I'm looking at linebacker for sure. And I would think if they're going to spend a lot of money, it would be at linebacker.
Yeah, if you get a guy that, and again, it's going to cost you a lot to get a Mosley or a Barr, but if you get guys like that, multiple Pro Bowl guys, I think that makes your ends in Vernon and Garrett that much more effective because there's a presence in the middle that really needs to be addressed. And I know they don't necessarily rush the passer, but it's another level of the defense that you need to account for.
All right, and they still have, as we said, Agba, they still have Avery. Not still have Avery. I mean, Avery's a piece. So it's not like they're desperate to fill spots, but that they clearly need they could use upgrades. All right. If you don't upgrade there, you're not devastated. But I think defensive line and linebacker, especially linebacker now. Again, I said it before. I wasn't a Collins fan.
Yeah.
I don't know that many people were Jamie Collins fans in this town because it seemed like for every 2 plays he was on, 1 play he took off. But he still was functional in certain areas and certainly against the run. So they're going to need at least one impact linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about Collins is Collins was athletic, could get to the ball in tackled reasonably well. I won't say he was a great tackler, but he was quick. He got to the ball and he made the tackle a lot.
And Dave, the reason we haven't mentioned offense is because, well, you've got Mayfield, you've got Landry, you have Higgins. I think is going to be a good player in this league. If he stays healthy for 16 games, he'll put up numbers. You have Njoku. You have Duke Johnson Jr.
Chubb.
You have Nick Chubb. You have potentially Kareem Hunt down the line. Maybe Perriman. Maybe you bring him back. The line is really good. Even though you lose Zeitler, here comes Corbett, a guy that was drafted by Dorsey. So that's a logical move for John Dorsey to say, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a hit offensively to get my edge bookend with Garrett and Vernon. And my contingency or my plan to replace Zeitler or try to replace him is with one of my guys.
Right.
You know, a guy drafted high. So the offense, I'm not going to say it's arrived. I'm not going to say it's a 30-point-a-game offense. But you look around and you like what you see, especially at the controls of, Kitchens and Monken. You figure those two guys are going to be able to bring out the best in what this offense already has.
And the other thing is Corbett doesn't have to be as good as Kevin Zeitler. He probably won't be as good as Kevin Zeitler. Zeitler graded out as one of the best guards in football. If he's 85% of Kevin Zeitler, that's a pretty good football player, and that is what the Browns need from that offensive line. Let's head to the phones. BP in Pepper Pike joins us. BP, appreciate the call. What's on your mind tonight, BP?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight? Doing well?
What's up?
Doing good.
You going to make it without Les?
We'll figure a way to fight through it.
Well, he's on a, I'm sure, well-deserved vacation, so kudos to him. But, no, so far I'm waiting for the Browns to sign anybody. It's been really quiet. Is there any the receiver from the the LA Chargers? Has there been any rumors on him, Terrell Williams?
Not yet. The one thing that I did see was he was looking for in the neighborhood of like 10 to 12 million a year for multiple years, which I don't know. I like him. I don't know I like him in that range.
Yeah, and here's another thing. Odell Beckham Jr. is still in play. I mean, according to reports out of New York, the Giants, even though they've claimed that he's not, the Giants are listening. Maybe, just maybe, the Browns are talking to the Giants. I don't know. But all I know is the reports I'm reading are that Beckham is not guaranteed to stay with the Giants for 2019. But short of that, though, I wonder about how much you invest in the wide receiving core. I mean, at some point you have to have faith, in my mind, in what you have. And the Browns receiving core, I mean, I'm not saying they're all-stars, but I guess I keep going back to the Tom Brady Patriots model, like he spreads the wealth and you don't have to be a star to put up numbers in that system. I think a system with Kitchens and Monken running it and Mayfield at quarterback can elevate the play of receivers so you don't automatically have to bring in a Beckham in order to score points. Am I wrong on that?
No, but I think...
Or BP.
The thing that I would say, BP, I would like them to get somebody that kind of stretches the field a little, because I think if you do that, I think you make Jarvis Landry that much more effective underneath.
Is he the guy? Is he the guy Dorsey thinks can do that?
He might be, but Callaway to me was really effective running slants and outs. But he was, and again, I realize he didn't play football for an entire year, and he's young. But I didn't like the way he came out of breaks, and there were some routes that it just didn't look like he really ran the way he could. And I think he caused a couple of interceptions just by the way he was running routes last year.
It felt like their best deep threat was Perriman. Even though Perriman didn't get a lot of balls, it seemed like he was generating some chaos down the field for DBs. And he's obviously trying to parlay it into some money, and I don't know if the Browns will be able to meet his price.
There was a lot.
I wanted to mention that one of the receivers that has been mock drafted potentially to the Browns is Marquise. I think his first name is Marquise Brown from Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma.
Yep.
And he played with Baker Mayfield and had some success with Mayfield, and he happens to be Antonio Brown's cousin, which is pretty – I didn't know that until I read that this morning.
Yeah, I did see that, and he and Mayfield had some highlight show type of receptions. I don't know that I like the idea of taking a receiver at 17, although having said that, I just gave you the reason you would, is I think – if you can open up the underneath stuff for Jarvis Landry, I think there's a lot of big plays that guy will make.
My only problem is I don't like all these short receivers. I think the Browns have too many 5'11" receivers. I like to see a guy like, A.J. Green type prototype, a 6'2", 6'3", of course, like what we have with Josh Gordon. But that's why, I'd like to find this guy DK Metcalf looks good to me on paper, but now after the combine, he's going up high. He's more like a top 10 pick at this point.
BP, I think Higgins and Perriman are both taller receivers, are they not?
Yeah, and I got no problem with Higgins, but to me, he's almost more of like a second-tier receiver. I mean, I think, if the Browns really want to go to the next level, I think they can afford, they've got all this salary cap money. I mean, they should be able to get either a higher level, either draft somebody in the first, second round as a receiver, or pick up a pretty good free agent at receiver. I'm not content with standing pat with this receiving core. And I mean, Perriman, could be okay, but he is still sort of a question mark.
I agree.
I think with all this salary cap room, they should be able to, or with high draft picks, they've got a couple of extra third-round picks. They've got a lot of draft collateral. Once again, they should be able to. They're going to come out with a good receiver, a new good receiver, I think, between now and, May 1st. What do you think?
I hear you, BP and Dave. And I'm not saying that they should automatically think that this receiving core, if they stay pat, is going to win them, the Super Bowl. But I'd rather see the bulk of the money spent on the defensive side. I wouldn't want some money going to a wide receiver when it could be going to a linebacker or an interior D line.
Fair enough. They need to shore up the middle of that defense. The edge is pretty good. You got Randall, who was good, but the middle of that defense, for lack of a better term, was soft.
And the new guy, to me, appears to be he measures out at 6'2", 270. To me, he's a defensive end. ESPN has him listed as a linebacker, but he's really, to me, a front four defensive lineman. What do you guys think?
Who's that?
Vernon.
Vernon. He's an end in a 4-3 and a linebacker in a 3-4. He played end in Miami and had 11.5 sacks, like his second or third year in the league.
He was brought in here to rush the passer.
Yeah.
And I did see some stats today on cleveland.com. I forgot who wrote the article, but Olivier Vernon grades out completely a lot higher than Emmanuel Ogbah. So do you think Ogbah could be traded, or he'll just be, a backup type of guy, or, situational guy? What do you think about Ogbah's future?
I don't think they're ready to give up on him yet. He's still a young guy that I think he underperformed what they thought he would do. As a matter of fact, I'm 99% sure because they thought he was going to have a really breakout year.
I suppose, it's definite that Ogbah's not happy. Nor should he be. But I suppose the Browns say to him, look, you're still in our mix. We control you. We're not giving you away for nothing. Come back, and there's always depth. Every team needs depth. Come back and blow us away with your work ethic. And when you get your chance, take advantage of it and see what happens at the end of the year.
All right.
Yeah. One last thing I did want to mention, LeBron is really struggling out in Los Angeles. I just wanted to pose a question to you guys. Like, let's say, forget, LeBron's got a 3 or 4 year deal with the Lakers. Like, as a Cleveland fan, would you want LeBron James back for next season? What do you think? On the Cavs, would you take him back and roll the dice with him, or would you say, you know what, forget it? Or what are your thoughts? Just curious.
Take him back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, except it's so unrealistic. I don't even entertain it. I mean, he's not coming back here. So
no, he's not, and it may be the beginning of time catching up with him, but I sure wouldn't bet on that. He still looks pretty ferocious on some of his dunks, and even with his groin injury, they've been horribly bad luck with the injuries, and these young guys haven't. But LeBron missed about 20 games out of an 82 game season, and that was a significant groin injury. The other thing I think they constructed that team without shooters around them, which I thought it was ridiculous when they said they were going to do it, and it was even more ridiculous than I thought. They have no shooting. They have no outside shooting.
No, you're completely right, because I've watched some Lakers games, and you'll look at the stats, like, they'll play a team that has 13 threes, and the Lakers make 7 threes. And that's the difference in the game of a 12 or 14-point loss.
Yeah,
but I actually thought when the Cavs got off to that really bad start, I thought the first guy I thought Kyle Korver was headed to the Lakers. And I was actually shocked that didn't happen. That LeBron didn't make that happen, or, somebody similar to Kyle Korver. But I just didn't understand. I completely agree with you, Dave, that, they had no three-point scoring. And this league is all about, teams are averaging 125 points a night now. So that was a huge miscalculation. I'm actually wondering if not Magic Johnson will get fired, but the guy, Rob Pelinka, I don't think he's going to make it the next season. What do you think?
Somebody's probably got to take a fall with Luke Walton for that. And
it would shock me if Luke Walton was back.
Pelinka's a former agent, so I could see that. It depends on how tightly he and Magic are joined together. BP, got to run. Appreciate the call. Thank you, sir.
Great stuff, as always.
Well, we got to step aside, take a quick time out, and when we return, we will talk some more about the AFC North. I want to remind you, it's the best of the best in Cleveland. All-star vehicles at the 2019 Summit Racing Equipment IX Piston-Powered Autorama. March 15th, 16th, and 17th at the IX Center all weekend long. You won't want to miss motorcycles, antique trucks, insane hot rods in the asylum, tractors, military vehicles, along with all-star theme car club on display. New this year, Fat Man's Invasion with Euro imports, sports compact, lowriders, and more. If a piston makes it go, it's in the show. The show rolls into the IX Center with kids 12 and under free. Discounted tickets on sale now at select Discount Drug Mart locations and Summit Racing Equipment in Talmadge. Military and first responder discounts available at the IX Center box office. You see the website there as well. D-Man and I will be right back. We are talking some AFC North. We talked a little bit. We'll get a little bit more involved. More sports and less Levine on cleveland.com. We'll be right back.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
It takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling to bring the heat when things get chilly. Find us at 440-449-HEAT.
This day in sports history brought to you by the professionals at Smiley One Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical. March 11th, 1986, the NFL adopts the instant replay rule for the first time.
It's been that long?
Yeah, wow. And then it's been redone a bunch of times. A bunch.
It'll probably get redone again.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the division going down. Let's talk a little bit about Antonio Brown. Boy, skipped out on his team the last week of the regular season and then pretty much held his breath and stomped his feet till they traded him, and gets rewarded by getting traded and a contract renegotiated.
That's why we love and hate professional sports, Dave. Where else can you pitch a fit, pout your way out of one place, go to another, and be rewarded handsomely for the pouting and the behavior? So good for him and his agent Drew Rosenhaus, because people talk about Brown doing all this. I gotta believe that Rosenhaus was coaching him behind the scenes every step of the way. Don't count out Drew Rosenhaus by any means, or lessen his impact with his clients just because he hasn't been in the news all that much in recent years. But it makes you scratch your head. You worry a little bit. Are other players going to see this and try to follow Antonio Brown's act? Okay, if I don't like it at my current place, I can pout my way out. But I would like to think that Brown is the rare exception as opposed to, even close to the rule.
Well, and, the interesting thing is apparently the Steelers had a deal in place with the Bills, and then when they contacted Brown, he basically said he wasn't going to go. If the Raiders don't do that, I don't know where he ends up, because, there are a lot of teams that were kind of like, great talent, but I don't know that we want to get involved in that.
Yeah, I would like to think that the Steelers would have made nice and, okay, welcome back, Antonio, you're one of us. And Roethlisberger would have put out a press release or something that said, hey, I love Antonio Brown. We're going to be rolling in 2019. But I get your point. They needed another suitor. The Raiders needed Brown, too.
Right.
I mean, yes, they threw mad money at him, but and yes, from the Raiders' perspective, it was a fleecing. They didn't give up much. But the Raiders needed Brown for marketing. They need him for Derek Carr. They need him for Gruden to call some plays, finally, with a dynamic playmaker. Oh, by the way, they need him for Vegas. So they both, both sides, well, the Steelers don't benefit. But the Raiders benefit not only, even though they have to pay for the player, they get a lot of ancillary benefit as well.
A third and a fifth round pick, though, I thought it would be a little bit higher than that. I really
so did. I.
But, I guess when it comes down to it, the Steelers took that because of the money that was, he basically rewrote the salary structure for wide receivers.
Yeah, and it is fascinating, too, Dave, how the wide receiver position has more than just Antonio Brown in terms of divas, in terms of guys who create havoc. You think of a Terrell Owens alongside of a Brown and other guys, and yet they don't really touch the ball all that much in a game. Yes, they're impactful players, but I wonder why other positions don't have divas to the degree that wide receivers do.
Well, they are the guys, they can touch. They touch it and they change the complexion of the game pretty quickly. Having said that, they need the quarterback to get him the ball. But I get where you're going with that. Well, we asked our Facebook question, what is the best team in the AFC North? That was our Facebook question. So Rick says the Browns are the best team. Steelers in turmoil over losing two of their best players. Add Jesse James into that. Ravens working on turning Lamar Jackson into a complete quarterback. The Bengals are, the Bengals. And with Dorsey as GM, the Browns are on the upswing. Dennis, I think Pittsburgh, but for the first time in a long time, we're more competitive. If they slip up, we can take the division. Carmen, the Browns are on the upswing for sure, but all these sources who say they are the favorite to win the North need to take a deep breath. They haven't reached 500 yet. Fair enough point. Let's see what free agents they sign, trades they complete, and who they draft. Until then, I think the Steelers, Ben and company, are going to be motivated to shut the people up about Bell and Brown. Your point. Carl says Baltimore because they still play defense and are unable to run the ball. Carl, keep in mind, though, they do lose Eric Weddle, Terrell Suggs, C.J. Mosley possibly. Glenn says Baltimore's the best team. They always play defense every year. Pittsburgh, although losing Brown and Bell, will retool with adequate replacements. but maybe on the decline. Browns are improving, hopefully. They will challenge Baltimore, but that's a huge task for a young team with a rookie head coach. And Carl says the Steelers until somebody beats them.
Well, except last year's champion of the North was Baltimore. But I get Carl's point. He's talking about the Steelers over time in the Roethlisberger era are the gold standard of the North. And, you know, I do think they're going to be motivated to show people that they can win without Brown and most likely without Bell as well. The Ravens always seem to have a good defensive concept. It's plug and play, much like the Patriots with their both offense and defense, plug and play. You know, you have to have Brady, of course, but you can build, you don't have to have stars at every position as long as you have Brady and Belichick. And I like the points that were made on these Facebook posts, especially the one about, you're asking a second-year quarterback and a first-year head coach to take you to places you haven't been in decades. And that's not an easy ask. But at least there's cause for optimism. I mean, it's not like you're sitting here saying, well, the Browns are going to contend for the division title. Based on what? Because I love the Browns. No, you have legitimate reasons. You're seeing it unfold in front of your eyes. Even if the Browns don't go hog wild in free agency, I still like their roster, and they still have the draft upcoming, and I do believe they're going to sign at least one name that makes you go, wow. But, at least there's genuine optimism about the Browns as opposed to forced.
Let me ask you about the Ravens. They also lose Ozzie Newsome as their general manager. Again, don't underestimate that. That's pretty important.
A great point you make, Dave. If Newsome is as good as we think he was at that job, then it will be a loss. Mm-hmm. Then you shouldn't gloss it over. But that's a great point. And another, Lamar Jackson looked really good when he came in. But Joe Flacco was a pretty darn good quarterback in the division for a long time. And he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. He's not there, okay? So just because Jackson is on the scene doesn't automatically mean that you're going to not miss a pro's pro and a proven winner like Joe Flacco.
And let's see, now defenses have had a chance to see how they're going to use Lamar Jackson. Everybody is a little bit better athlete than in the NFL. Here's a news flash. Everybody's a little bit better athlete in the NFL than they were in college. So let's see how he translates to the quarterback position. He's going to have to be able to throw the ball from the pocket a little bit better than he did.
Yes, and Dave, I think you saw that with what the Chargers did. The Chargers saw Jackson. I believe they were the only team that saw him twice because they saw him in the regular season and in the playoffs. The Ravens go out to Los Angeles and beat the Chargers in the regular season. The Chargers come to Baltimore and beat them in that first-round game or the second-round game, as it were, before the Chargers go to New England and get beat. There's an idea that you can scheme to stop a running quarterback. The other thing, too, the cautionary tale for the Ravens is this. I've come to believe, listening and reading a lot of people in the know, you can't teach accuracy at the NFL level. You can't coach it at the NFL level. You can try. You can have the greatest quarterback minds presiding over you, but you either have that accuracy or you don't. It's either innate or it's not. And so if your accuracy numbers weren't necessarily great predating your NFL time, they're not necessarily going to be great in the NFL. Now, I know Jackson had a decent percentage at Louisville, but clearly throwing the ball is not his strength. And I don't know that he's all of a sudden going to discover how to throw well at the NFL level.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. Well, Sokolowski's University Inn is one of the best places you can eat. The James Beard Award winners. Family dining. It's Cleveland's oldest family restaurant, Sokolowski's University Inn, Tremont. Established back in 1923. Great food at Sokolowski's. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I will be back one more time. You're watching More Sports and Less Levine here on cleveland.com.
concrete in your garage is uneven, cracked, pitted, and just plain ugly, transform your garage into a welcoming entryway with Nature Stone flooring. Reduce tracked-in dirt, eliminate puddling and salt damage. Plus, Nature Stone corrects uneven concrete so you don't have to worry about tripping or slipping.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
It's the best of the best, Cleveland. All-star cars, hot rods, and motorcycles at the 2019 Summit Racing Equipment IX Piston-Powered Autorama. March 15th, 16th, and 17th at the IX Center. If a piston makes it go, it's in this all-star show, featuring motorcycles, antique trucks, insane hot rods in the Asylum, tractors, military vehicles, along with all-star themed car clubs on display. New this year is Fat Man's Invasion with Euro imports, sport compacts, lowriders, and more. PistonPowerShow.com for details. Kids 12 and under are free. Discount tickets on sale now at select Discount Drug Mart locations and Summit Racing Equipment in Talmadge.
The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff. I'm
Still
Dave
nothing.
Beck. Nothing going on.
Nothing major in this hour, at least.
Let's switch gears quickly. Indians. Adam Jones reportedly signing a contract with the Diamondbacks. A pretty affordable one. What do you think? What do you make of the outfield situation? And does Hanley Ramirez, if he's able to hit in the middle of that lineup, help it a little bit?
Well, if you're getting the Hanley of a few years ago, and he stays healthy, of course he does. He's a middle of the order hitter rolling out of bed. The question is, are you going to get that from Hanley Ramirez? There's many reasons why, I guess, that he was cut loose by the Red Sox. They certainly struggled without him, didn't they?
Yeah.
After they got rid of him, won the World Series. I mean,
record amount of games won.
Yeah. So you have to temper your expectation with Ramirez, but he's a name. He's got credentials. And you desperately need credentials in that lineup. And Adam Jones, when I see, was it 1 year, $3 million?
Yeah.
I'm like, why can't that be in Cleveland?
5 or 6, yeah.
But then again, maybe as you and I said before the show, maybe Jones says,
I want to play center, and that's not going to happen here.
Or I want to play in Arizona.
Right.
Maybe he said that. And no offense to Cleveland or anybody. Maybe the Indians did put out a feeler on that, and Jones was like, no, I'd rather play in Arizona. So we don't know, but when you see this relatively small amount that he signed for, it makes sense that some Cleveland fans would go, why couldn't that have been ours?
Do the amount of young players that you're putting in this lineup, that's the thing that concerns me. You've got a number of guys who have never done it at the major league level. Now, they could be fine, and they could have breakout years. They could perform the way, but there's a number of guys that haven't done it at the big league level.
You're absolutely right, Dave. I've said for a couple of years that I think the White Sox are the next really good team in this division. I thought they would be closer by now than it appears that they are, because they have such a young core and they've been able to trade for a lot of young prospects. I still believe over the long haul, the White Sox are going to be the next good team that's going to last. But the Twins right now, I don't know if the Indians want to be in denial about this. The Twins, to me, will be legitimate contenders if for no other reason than their lineup, to me, is a lot more potent, a lot more proven. I wouldn't say scary, but I like that lineup a lot better than I like Cleveland's lineup. So, yes, the Indians have an all-star cast in the rotation, but the Twins have been pesky against that great rotation in previous years. I think they have a right to feel confident. I don't necessarily agree with Max Kepler when he says we're the team to beat in the division. But I think the Twins will be able, in 2019, to go neck and neck with the Indians deep into the season. if not the entire season.
We're going to step aside, take one more time out. The D-Man and I will return to wrap it up. Want to remind you, Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing Monday through Wednesday and Saturday evenings at 6 p.m. with the post time. Open early every day for simulcast action, top thoroughbred harness racing tracks from around the world. Enjoy free handicap contests all weekend long, including the popular Road to the Derby on Saturdays and weekly Sunday contests featuring Gulfstream Park. Free admission and parking every day from Northfield Park. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I will return one more time here. More sports and less Levine on cleveland.com.
When my dad started Nature Stone right here in Northeast Ohio, he created a solution for age-old concrete problems: unevenness, cracking, pitting, and more. Nature Stone solves all of these problems in garages, basements, and outdoor spaces. Nature Stone is beautiful, environmentally friendly, and always affordable. Nature Stone is backed by Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty.
Get Nature Stone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Bud Shaw will be on the show tomorrow night. He is now with WKYC.com. Bud Shaw and I filling in for Les tomorrow night. Want to remind you, Facebook, head to it, facebook.com, more sports, Les Levine. New content posted every day, including our Facebook question of the day. So, D-Man, we are day one of legal tampering in the NFL. I love saying legal tampering. It's just one of those weird NFL things. Takeaways. Are you disappointed? Are you? The Browns aren't rushing right out. I think that's an indication of the roster upgrade that went on last year as well.
Yes, and I think some of the pressure of free agency was lessened by the trade to acquire Vernon in Dorsey's mind. I trust Dorsey right now if I'm a Browns fan. Yes, again, as we said, there were issues with the salary cap while he was in Kansas City, but I trust him here because it seems like everything he does is the right thing. So if he doesn't think it's wise to spend a lot in free agency, I'm going to believe him until the product on the field begins to backslide or deteriorate. I have faith in Dorsey.
Last thing I'll ask you, would you spend significant money on Barr or Mosley?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would put that. Those are the type of impact players that you want to see on your team. And I don't think you're overspending for those two guys. I mean, yeah, you could look at any contract and say a guy's overpaid. And you probably will wind up saying overpaid with Mosley and or Barr because of what Alexander's contract was. But those two guys would be worth it, in my opinion, one of them. And I'd like to think the Browns are in on it. They might not be able to snag them, but at least they're in on it.
D-Man, as always, a great job. Appreciate it. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, you can read him. Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. That'll do it for us on this edition of More Sports and Less Levine. I'm Dave Bacon. I'll be back tomorrow night filling in for Les. Bud Shaw from WKYC.com will be our guest. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everyone.